Hey there, scholars. This is part two of Mr. Williams' Enlightenment, Great Awakening, and Changes in the Colonies. And what we want to do is take what we just learned about four major events, four major things, four major periods, four major ways of thinking about what was going on, and we want to turn that into propaganda posters. So I'm going to try to walk you through that. So again, these slides are in Google Classroom. They're called the Great Awakening Enlightenment. And this is the second half of that slideshow. So around slides number low 20s into the 30s. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to create a poster. You can use Google Draw, Google Slides, or by hand. I thought it'd be nice to just have a break from computers and just do something for real. On your poster, you want a slogan that identifies the bottom line up front. Basically, we want to focus on the impact of that issue. And it's going to be a propaganda poster. So you want to convince other colonists to see that issue your way. You want them to recognize what is important about that topic. So you want to have three important symbols as well as a slogan. I'm going to show you a bunch of famous propaganda posters, and we're going to kind of break down how you can show positive or negative things and some tools of the trade. And make sure it's a propaganda poster, so make sure you have a point of view. Make sure you're showing your opinion, and make sure it's direct and it punches your audience right in the mouth, not literally, just metaphorically. And then just as a bonus for me, I want you to have just a little written explanation in a text box. Again, this should be pretty good little academic writing piece. I'm not short shrift in it because I want to be able to understand what you're going for. Sometimes it's not always clear, but I also want to see that you know what you're going for. So I want you to articulate that in a text boxes with several sentences and make sure you really point out what were you thinking, how are you going to do it, and what's important. So having said all that, here's our introduction to propaganda. Propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular cause or point of view. So remember, it's definitely going to be one-sided. So it's information that is not impartial. That means that it is biased, and it's used primarily to influence an audience and further an agenda. So you want someone to think like you do. And you're trying to provoke, this is the important part, you're trying to provoke an emotional, not rational response. Rational is calm, thought out, logical. You want a gut reaction. You want to hook them right away and get them to be disgusted, in love. You want them fired right away on exactly what you want them to think about. So you might have seen these in your English class. What we have is a couple different ways of thinking about persuasion. And what we want to focus on is pathos, which is an appeal to emotion, and it's a way of convincing the audience of your argument by getting that emotional response. But important to propaganda posters is also ethos and an appeal to ethics, and is a means of convincing someone of the character or credibility of their persuader. Because we're not just marketing something. We're not just trying to sell or advertise something. We want to call on a higher emotion of people. We want to call on a higher sense of worth. And it has to do with patriotism or important values like family, country, democracies. It's got to hook onto something important. So, for example, here's something that has an immediate emotional reaction from me. I am disgusted. I hate yellow, funky, nasty toenails. Oh my God, I cannot stand that. I have no idea what onychomycosis is, but I know I don't like it, and I want to get Jublia so my toenails never look at that. But this isn't really calling in on any higher ethos. This is just don't have nasty toes. So I definitely have an emotional reaction, but it's not any higher sense of calling. Now, this is the most famous one, and this is also my disclaimer. Don't copy this propaganda poster. It's way too simple. It's not very complex or doesn't really allow us to get anything to our audience. But this is the most famous one. And this is Uncle Sam, U.S. Sam. Or sorry, U.S. Uncle Sam. And this is just calling for soldiers to enter the armed forces during World War II to fight the bad guys. And so it should be calling on your patriotism, your manhood, and kind of that response to your elder. It's a sense of responsibility. It's serious, somber, but it's also empowering. You can do it. Now, let's get on to more intricate examples. This is definitely showing you something bad. We do not like this guy because he's got nasty fingernails, nasty teeth, big crazy eyeball. He's wearing the dark colored uniform, so he's got to be a bad guy. He's very militant looking. He's got grenades, helmet, and he's about to eat a baby. There's no way any human being will like this guy. this is terrible. So whatever this guy stands for, I want to do against that. So obviously we can demonize certain things. That makes them look bad. And anyone on the right or normal side is not going to want to do whatever this guy is doing. We don't want to be on this guy's side. Same thing. This is demonizing and showing the opposition as a monster. You can see he's got a bloody knife. He's got a gun. He's stomped on. It looks like a lady down there. And, that kind of calls on the whole masculinity thing. You have to save the damsel in distress. And look at this civilization, this great church or whatever this thing was. This architecture is in ruins because of this bad guy. And look at his posture. His body language is like very animalistic. He looks like a gorilla or like a savage caveman or something like that. So it's very brutalist in portraying this guy. And look at the text right here. Help stop this. Well, we don't want that bad guy to do that to our cities and our country. So we better buy a WSS to keep him out of America. War service, I don't know, but I don't like that guy. That's my emotional response. This is empowering. This calls on your patriotism to do your part. So this is calling for ladies to join the workforce. She's wearing blue coveralls. So this is calling on women to do their part, join the labor force, help save their country because everyone can do something. That's empowering and positive. Look at it. She looks confident. Yeah, that makes me want to do it. Ooh, dig for victory. Grow your own vegetable garden so you don't have to, take away food from soldiers who are going to be on the front line and they need their veggies and all this stuff. So we have kind of this image of a garden that's bountiful and like it's a very positive thing. One thing to point out is simple, flat colors. Your eye can immediately go to the important things. It's not confused by a bunch of stuff going on. Short, simple slogans that are to the point. Everyone can understand it. And yeah, I can do that. If she can do that, I can do that. It's calling you to do your part, do the simple things that'll let your country win. Now, here's a great example where I want you to make sure to have 3 important components, like 3 important visuals that represent something. So first off, look at this. There's these nice, sweet, innocent kids. So youth is like innocence. That's an important symbol. They also have toys, so it kind of shows they're young, they're playing. She's got a doll. He's got his little, I think that's probably supposed to be a gun. But anyways, he's got his hat. He's pretending to be a soldier. This guy's got his U.S. airplane. But look, there's a big shadow looming over them. Oh, my gosh. So that big swastika is like a shadow that's coming down, and that means there's something up in the eye. Would you want the enemy to have bombers flying in the sky and about to drop bombs on your kids? No, so that's going to have a gut response. We all want to protect our kids because our sweet, innocent kids, and it looks like they're just out on the front lawn. So this is your home that the enemy planes could be flying right over any day. Oh, it's scary. So there's like a couple of important symbols. The lawn, it's everyone's home. It's your kids, the innocence of kids, the toys, and the shadow, the big symbolic shadow casting over. So we've got 3 main things in my eyes that are going to give that gut punch. Well, we need to protect our kids. Don't let that shadow touch them. Buy war bonds. If you give more money to your government, if you let them borrow money from you, they'll pay you back, don't worry. But then they can buy more bullets, planes, ships, guns, tanks, all that, and keep those darn Nazis, those fascists out of here. So that's a great propaganda poster. So here's our 2 issues that are positives for the colonists, and here's 2 issues that are negatives for the colonists. So your job is to assume the identity of a colonist and convince other people that these 2 things, whichever one you pick, these are good things. And here's what you should recognize. These are empowering things. But these 2 things, whichever one you're only going to pick one out of the 4. These 2 things are negatives. These are limiting. These are controlling. These are things that don't honor the social contract. These are negatives for the American colonists. So your job is to show it in a very visual and striking way. How can you convince other American colonists that this is a good thing, or that this is a good thing, or that this is a bad thing, or that this is a bad thing? That is your job with your propaganda posters. Strike your audience with your imagery and your short, simple slogans, but be sure to also impress your history teacher with your grasp of the issue. Show what's important about it. I'll walk you through the research in class, and that is your job, ladies and gentlemen.